Hello everyone. In this video we are going to talk about fetal circulation. Understanding fetal circulation is very important because one time you understand it, you will remember it forever. And until and unless you really don't understand it, it's a very difficult thing. See, some basic rules needed to be followed. See, in fetal life, you get oxygen, nutrient, and you need to give your waste products to placenta. Placenta is your all mom dad thing. Everything you got from placenta, and everything you don't want to give to leave that is you give it to the placenta. So the placenta is the source of oxygen here. You need to remember this thing first of all. Second, when we describe any circulations, it is very traditionally method that we describe artery as red line and vein as a blue line. In this video we are also going to do that thing only. It's not about oxygenation status of that vessel. What we are talking about is we are talking about arteries and vein. Artery is the structure who takes blood out from the heart, and the vein is the vessel that takes blood towards the heart. This is what basic rule we are going to apply. Artery is red and the vein is blue, regardless of the status of oxygenation inside it. Okay, now fetal circulation. In fetal circulation, umbilical veins are very typical veins that carries oxygenated blood from placenta. To understand this chart, we need to start from the below line, that is placenta. You can see here, this is placenta, and from placenta this umbilical vein goes. You see this umbilical vein, this umbilical vein just arises and go towards the fetus having oxygenated blood. It is, though it is selected as a blue, but still it carries the oxygenated blood. This umbilical vein now goes into the liver, and into the liver it joins with the left portal vein. So what happened till now? Umbilical vein from the placenta carries oxygenated blood, and that umbilical vein goes and joins the portal vein. Now, if we talk about fetal circulation, we need to talk about very 3 to 4 short circuits. The short circuits are very important things in the fetal circulation. The first short circuit is ductus venosus. This ductus venosus actually short circuits portal vein and inferior vena cava. This is portal vein in green and inferior vena cava in a large blue color. The ductus venosus actually joins these both structures, both veins. That's why it is called ductus venosus. And because of the ductus venosus, the oxygenated blood come from the umbilical artery into the portal vein. Most of that part directly goes into the inferior vena cava rather than goes into the liver and getting metabolized. The direct oxygenated blood goes directly into the IVC, inferior vena cava. Now the IVC goes and opens into right atrium. We can see here I have very simplified version of fetal heart, that is the box, the four boxes into a one box: right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. The inferior vena cava, which carries the oxygenated blood, goes and opens into the right atrium as usual. But in the right atrium, the blood flow coming from the vena caves, from the veins, doesn't go into the right ventricular wall. You need to remember this thing. Only a few amount of total blood flow which come into the right atrium goes into right ventricle. Most of the blood flow directly goes into the left atrium via a second short circuit, and that second short circuit is called foramen ovale. Because of this foramen ovale, 90% of blood come into the right atrium, goes directly into left atrium. A very few part of the blood goes into the right ventricle, and from the right ventricle towards the lungs, but most of the part in right atrium comes into left atrium via a short circuit. The short circuit is called foramen ovale. Here, this box. Now, this was a second short circuit. From left atrium, the blood goes into the left ventricle. As usual, from the left ventricle, the blood goes into the aorta. Okay? And from the right ventricle, a very few amount of blood comes into the right ventricle, and that also goes into lungs. But again, the third short circuit comes here, and the short circuit name is ductus arteriosus. This ductus arteriosus actually carries blood from pulmonary artery to the descending part of aorta. From pulmonary artery to descending part of aorta, you have seen here it is green. See, the green vessel is actually carrying blood from pulmonary artery to the descending part of aorta. And what happens here is, though there was a very small amount of oxygenated blood was going to the lungs, but from that part also most of the oxygenated blood goes into directly aorta rather than going into the lungs. And from the aorta, oxygenated blood is supplied to the every organs and cells of the fetus. And one artery of aorta is umbilical artery. Actually, there are two in number. Two umbilical arteries goes to the placenta, and that arteries carries deoxygenated blood. Are you getting my point? So this is how fetal circulation works. Fetal circulation has three short circuits. One you need to remember. The first short circuit is ductus venosus. Second short circuit is ductus arteriosus, and third short circuit is foramen ovale. Now, what happens at the birth? At the birth, the fetal circulation changes into the neonatal circulation. That is kind of adult circulation. So all these three short circuits need to be closed at immediately. For example, when the umbilical cord is cut, the ductus venosus thus occludes itself. Foramen ovale physically closes. Anatomically, physiologically it is closes. Anatomically it will take time, but at present, immediately what happens, foramen ovale also closes due to the pressure changes. The ductus arteriosus is also occludes itself immediately. So all these three short circuits are just occluded at the time of birth, and the fetus now starts doing into the adult circulation. Thank you.